Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you will receive alerts when there are new episodes. Go get it.
That's what I tell them. I've been grinding for so long, I wake up and chase my goals. I go out and I go get it. Hot or cold, that's all I know. I don't succeed, then I don't breathe. Success, what does it mean? If I conquer all my goals, then I'm living out my dream. Dig deep, go out and get it. Success Chronicles. Compete until it's finished. Success Chronicles. Go take care of your business. Success Chronicles. It's deeper than just winning. Success Chronicles.
Yes. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with another episode, topic session of the Success Chronicles. And today we have Principal Jeni Neatherlin with us. She is doing some amazing things in her school and her school district, and just some great things for kids. And so our topic today that we're going to talk is the unseen education, ways to reach all kids. And so we can just let you go. And, what are some things that you think are beneficial that we all need to make sure we do to reach all kids?
I have had this conversation with a lot of people, and growing up in the background that I have and the environment and circumstances that I grew up in, I would say the number one rule in education is empathy without exception. And so with that, for me, that means that when we are working with our kids and we are providing them things that they need, like basic human needs, and making sure that we connect with them through relationships, through their basic necessities and those things that we see all the time, you have to have a standard that you hold kids to. If you do not hold kids accountable and have where you're providing them discipline, then it does them no good to, it's the teach a man to fish mentality, that you can't just provide for them. You have to give them the opportunity to prove themselves and hold them to a standard and an expectation. And I read a great quote by Melanie Meyer the other day, and it was talking about how everybody goes through these things. You have to just compensate. And so with that being said, I think that the biggest struggle that we have faced is providing the blanket of support while maintaining high expectations for kids. Because when you lower the bar and when you say, you don't have to do this because I get something's going on at home, well, I get that. But we still have to make sure that we are upholding the expectations, because life is rough, and you're going to have to grind and work to succeed, to overcome these obstacles. And if you stop and you say, okay, here's the bar and we're going to lower it for you, just because something's going on in their life, that ain't going to work.
That's right. And just like you said, life is tough, and, throughout your whole life, you will go through things. And if you can learn at a young age to find that second gear, to, just like you said, to regardless of what's going on, I'm going to get it done.
Mm-hmm. I think the most important part for educators is to watch, like to really watch and pay attention to kids. Because, I will say just this last week, I saw, kids in the halls that didn't have jackets on. And so we go up and we watch them and we see them. And a high school kid is never going to come up to you and say, I don't really have the money. I don't have a jacket. That's just not their style. And if they do, that's awesome, because it very rarely happens. Their style is much more to just, not be seen, not to make a big deal about it. But if you can see kids and you're watching them and you go, oh, on a cold day, they never have a jacket, and you go get them hooked up and take care of them and get a jacket. If their clothes are dirty every single day and they're coming, you can go talk to them about helping them wash their clothes. I mean, we have custodians that help our kids wash clothes, and they just drop off a bag and give another bag, and they bring us some clothes, and we help make it happen. And we have had some amazing things at our school that we do that they're just behind the scenes, that it's not a big deal, but it's just because people are watching and they're reaching out. And it may not be because they have this super solid relationship. It'll be because they say, hey, I don't know that kid over there, but I know he's in the same shirt every single day. And can you help him out? And so those are things that, as educators, if you can watch and you can see, then we can start saying, okay, now let's talk about learning, and let's talk about behavior and all of those things. You still have the expectations, but we're going to provide these other areas, and we're going to help you out.
What's crazy though is, I think when you go above, and that was one of the tips that I had too, when you go above and beyond to, like you said, to watch and be aware, I think all of that other stuff takes care of itself.
It does.
Because when they know that you genuinely care, they'll do whatever you ask them to do because they know you have their back. That's
the biggest hurdle for education, is finding that means to support them while maintaining expectations to get stuff done. And that's where a lot of people in education, they take empathy and sympathy, and they lose track of that. And so when you don't realize that, you just feel so bad for some kids because you hear the stuff that they're going through, and you think, oh my goodness, like I mean, people who are not in education, unless they're social workers, would really never understand steps. They just don't. They don't get it. And so when we, the kids, so we had this huge flood that came through and wiped out a large portion of our kids in Kingsland area. And, the very first thing that we're doing when we were off for a couple of days and we came back, we're like, okay, we're going to get you showers, shampoo. We brought towels. We took care, and we said, we're going to make sure that you have food to go home with. We took care of all of those things, but that's the start of the day.
Right.
But we still have to get through all of these things, and they're mad at the world. Some of them are crying, some of them are emotional, some of them are just flat out angry at what has happened and where they've been. And so when you take all of those things and you say, okay, here's some standards, go educate and have fun, the state doesn't take those things into consideration. Right. But that's what teachers do. They're fantastic. They're on the forefront, and they're just they're paying attention to those things, and they are overcoming those hurdles while trying to provide a lifelong lesson, and then saying, okay, here, I'm gonna make sure that your emotional needs are met too, because you have to deal with those things, and you have to say, okay, I know, little Jimmy, that's not your normal behavior. I know that, and I know you're angry. I know something's going on, so maybe today you don't call on little Jimmy 5 times that you normally would, or maybe you pair him with somebody who's a much more friendlier person to him, and you kind of work things that way. And you have to. It's a huge balancing act.
Yes, I think, but within that fine line or balancing act, that's where the magic is.
Mm-hmm. It's an art. Teaching is an art, and that's where, and coaching too, and just being an education, an administrator. I mean, you have to be able to. It's all the stuff that's in between the lines. Yeah, it's powerful. It's pretty amazing to watch them do it well.
Yes, it is. I'm a 4th generation educator, and also my family's church folks too. And so I've heard my family members say, that to be great at teaching, to be a great teacher, it's a calling.
It is.
It's definitely a calling, and you have to have some innate skills, to be great at it. I believe,
And you have to be positive, and it's a big thing that's coming down the pipe is the mental health aspect of it.
Yes.
Because we've had so much, we've had so many kids, that have talked about committing suicide. We've had so many kids that, that are just so angry. And then that becomes the component of where you have someone who is angry at the world and they do things like the shooting up schools. And so you have to be very proactive with everything that you do in education now. I mean, it's unfortunate, Chip, but, I have to go to school every day with some kids that I know, because I've held them to a standard, they're going to be very angry at me. And so, if I go up and I see a kid that's like cocking a gun and looking over at me while he's doing it, my only response is to go over to that kid and just show him as much love as possible and interest and say, what's going on in your life, man? What are you doing? And just try to get to know that kid, because that's our defense. I mean, we are watching, we are being diligent, but we've got to love on them and just try to show them that we care, and we genuinely care about them making it as a person. And so those are the things in education that people don't see, that we're still doing behind the scenes all the time. So I think that one of the things that, the mental health aspect of that too, I mean, we do a lot of things in education that we just, today I talked about how interview questions for teachers. Like, one of the questions that I would ask a teacher, and that I had to, after having seen this in front of my face, was that, when I'm interviewing a teacher and I said, hey, if your job says, and my job, I give you a duty and I say, you do not get to, hello, Richmond. But if I tell them with their duty station that they are not allowed to let kids into the building except for anywhere in a classroom after 4 p.m. and they're on duty, but then it's raining. So the rule is you can't let kids in, but it's raining. What do you do? Where are you? What's happening? And so I can't even tell you how many times teachers are like, well, the rule is you leave them outside, but it's raining. Right. And so that's one of those things that I have seen teachers do duty, kicking kids outside while they're on the inside. And so those are the exact opposite of things that we're looking for. So that's not a teacher that I want to hire. That's a teacher that I want to, I want to say, we can't do that, because if we have kids on the outside and we're on duty, we're on the outside. We're with them. Yeah. And so, but we're not going to do that. If the rule says that, we're going to be flexible enough to know that we want to let kids on the inside. If it's cold outside, they're in the building. Those go back to all the things that, you just show them repeatedly through the littlest gestures that you care. And a lot of that goes with knowing their name.
Oh man. And that's a simple thing, with those two things you said, taking the time to know who they are, their name, just their name, but then taking care of kids, and that's anybody in life. If you're involved, you're around a person and they're going to look out for you, judgment-free zone. I don't care who you are. Hey, it's raining. Y'all come inside. I'm not going to have you standing outside in the rain. Come inside, Yeah. You got to stay in this area, but y'all come inside. Let's get out the rain,
But that's where we've gotten into a struggle, because we do have teachers that sometimes, and you can't, I just need people that are flexible. And that's where there's so many gray areas in education with having to be flexible for kids. And it just, all of that goes back when we talk about the unseen education. We can talk about, it's not even all the stuff that the kids are going through. It's what they don't want to go through. I was kind of thinking about one of the rules that, as a principal, when we had kids that are smart, that come from low income families, I put them, if they're knocking it out of the park on their STAR tests or any kind of standardized test that we give, I put them automatically in pre-AP or AP classes. I don't even give them an option. And they come back, and we've had some people like, no. But because, most of those times those have been like parent sign-ups, or, your parents have to volunteer you. Nope. It does not matter what your background is. If you can handle the class, we're going to put you in it. And so And then they have to, if they want to get out, there's a long process for them to have to get out, because I want them to make the effort and to try, because we believe they're capable. Imagine that, people thinking that people from low incomes can come out and be okay.
Yeah,
so
imagine that. Crazy.
I know. and so that's where, when I grew up, that just wasn't the case a lot of times. And so they kind of get by, and they go, because you do have your pushers and kids that want to achieve, but a lot of times you don't. And so they're acceptable. I mean, they're fine. They don't advocate for themselves. And you have to, that's part of the process that we're trying to do too. We're trying to teach them to advocate for themselves.
That's it. And I think it teaches them too that, great things come from discomfort. You got to get out your comfort zone, and
They
if
got
you
to get out of the comfort zone.
and if you're, if you're forced to do that, but also have support while you're doing that, it's amazing, as you go through the things that you can achieve, first of all, and then the confidence that it gives you, because you have people believing in you, that's pushing you, and it makes for an amazing thing.
And we just want to provide, that's one of those things right now that we just have going. We just want to keep providing kids support, and we're not perfect at it. There's always, but every place that I've been has really worked to make things happen. And we've been working with just an example. Friday, Herf Jones was there working with seniors and juniors, and they're doing the caps and gowns stuff. And we've always been able to help provide for kids that didn't have the caps and gowns, but we got 2 rings donated from Herf Jones for a boy and a girl that can't afford it, so that exemplify leadership. And so I'm putting it to my staff to do voting to see who would be the strongest candidates, but economic needs one of them. And so it's the little things every single day that you can do that says, we got you, and we're going to take care of you. And we want to see you succeed. And that's what education, those are the behind the scenes things. Those don't have anything to do with the TEKS and standardized tests, or they're just part